Before we get into the episode, we would like to issue a content warning.
Due to the nature of this show, we will be discussing sensitive topics, which could include murder, violence, sexual assault, domestic abuse, animal abuse, elder abuse, alcohol, drugs, racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, ableism, and more. Please take this into account when deciding when, where, and if to listen. Hello and welcome to Looking for a Man in His 30s, a Criminal Minds podcast. I'm Emma.
And I'm Sara, and today we'll be discussing Season 1, Episode 11, Blood Hungry, which first aired on December 14th, 2005. Well, first, a little chat.
Yeah, so you've got yours first, go on.
So, I don't know about you, but it's been unseasonably warm for the past few weeks.
Yeah, it fucking has, yeah.
I know we moan about UK weather, and I know it's only been in like the early 20s, like degrees Celsius, obviously. But the kind of heat over here is so different from abroad, and I don't do well in heat. So,
no. And heat rises, and I live in the loft.
Yeah.
So my room is an oven.
Oh.
I put like little cooling mats on the floor for the cats, and they're like, no, thank you. We will be fine just here, right in the window. And I'm like, I don't think you will be. I think you'll be hot. But you can't tell those cats anything.
No. And we just need a little bit of rain. Also, did you know, I didn't tell you this, our local reservoir is running dangerously low.
That's upsetting.
Yeah.
Yes.
My friend was there last week and sent photos. And it's the same area where I've been before. And the difference is ridiculous. It's crazy.
Is anyone doing anything about it? The council, the water company?
Hopefully a rain dance, but I have no idea.
Okay. I kind of meant anything actually helpful, but sure, you try a rain dance and then maybe also call your local councillor and just ask.
Also, in other news, you were the American artist Chris Brown.
Yeah. So much to call him an artist as a domestic abuser.
And a bellend. Well, here we go. Did you know he was arrested in Manchester last week?
Yes, it was all over BBC News, and my dad does watch 24 Hour
And
News.
for those who don't know what happened, he was part of an assault in a nightclub in London, and he's glossed somebody over the head, as you do. But reportedly, he's been remanded in custody in a prison that's 20-minute drive from my house.
So you're suggesting that we go there and we say this is for Rihanna and...
Dear listeners, I redacted my comments about Chris Brown because I don't want to get sued. But just imagine what they are.
I hope that he is kept in prison
Yeah.
and not allowed out because rich people can get away with crimes because they just have the money to pay for a good lawyer. Yeah. Hey, do you want to hear my hot take? It's that we shouldn't have, if you can't afford a lawyer will be provided for you. It should be, you always get a court-appointed lawyer, because otherwise rich people get to have expensive lawyers that will find any way possible to get around the law and get abusers out. And poor people who have just, got a drug possession charge are having to go with a legal aid lawyer who has got like 30 cases and just says, hey, look, I don't want to go to trial because I don't have the time. Yeah. So I'm afraid you're going to have to plead out. And it's like, it just makes the justice system unfair. I think we could equalize it by saying, actually, everyone gets a court-appointed lawyer and you don't get to buy your freedom.
Yeah.
So basically, I've had numbness in my fingers for about 6 weeks now, probably. And at first I thought it was due to an injury because it started when I was sewing. Waited like a week, called 111 over the bank holiday weekend, and the nurse is like, okay, cool. Well, see how it is after the bank holiday weekend, you know, it's Easter. You're not coming into the emergency room for this. And I'm like, okay, cool. Wait for like a week after the bank holiday weekend, and then I send in an e-consult to my doctor, who's like, yeah, okay, we'll make an appointment for 2 weeks' time. I'm like, okay, well, clearly it's nothing serious, because everyone's just like, nah, just wait a bit, it's fine. But like, my anxiety is rising. Yeah. And like, you know, the diabetes can sometimes incur like nerve damage in the extremities, like your toes and your fingers. And so there's me spiraling, because I'm like, I have a family history of heart disease and diabetes. And I was like, this is definitely it. You know, the most sane conclusion that with no previous symptoms of diabetes, like increased thirst and increased needing to go to the toilet and losing weight really suddenly, no existing symptoms of heart disease, I'm just like, well, it's clearly gotten to the point that it's caused nerve damage. Like, without it being like even a concern on the previous blood tests I've had throughout the year. So I'm there like, I've clearly got diabetes, and you're going to tell me that it's like moved, I've now got nerve damage. You know, despite the fact that my dad has had diabetes for like 60 years now, and he does not have nerve damage in his fingers. So, you know, I was slightly wrong about that. Turns out it's carpal tunnel probably, and I have to wear wrist splints and do some wrist exercises. And then the doctor is like, we'll run a blood test just in case to check for diabetes, but I really don't think that's it. And then, so I had the blood test on Saturday. On Monday, I get this text from the doctor saying, we'd like to redo your bloods in 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, they've got the results back really fast. And they're saying they need to redo my bloods. Hell, this must be really serious. An hour and a half later, I get a follow-up text from the doctor after I booked this next blood test. And she's like, oh, your vitamin D appears to be a little low. It's not enough that you would need a prescription, but you can just take some supplements. You can get them from the chemist. And of course I have a vitamin D deficiency. I burn anytime I go outside. So I'm there covering my arms with like a long shirt sleeve, like pulling the baseball cap down over my head.
Well, do you know what's weird?
Yeah.
As you can tell, I tan pretty easily. But my vitamin D levels are really low, and I've been on prescription vitamin D tablets for the last 3-4 years. Yeah.
So when I looked it up, it did say that people with darker skin colors may also have trouble absorbing vitamin D from the sun. So that's probably your thing.
Yeah.
It's just the melanin in your skin.
Damn it.
That it's screwing you over.
Oh no.
Yeah. So carpal tunnel, way better than, you know, heart disease or diabetes.
Yeah.
Which is good. I also still have to be polite about the thing that I was pissed off about in the last episode. So Sarah just gets to hear about that in some voice notes later. Sorry, listeners.
I look forward to it.
Okay. We'll be back with the episode recap after this short break.
Yeah.
Hello, and welcome back to Looking for a Man in His 30s. Now, we're on to Sarah with the episode recap. Take it away, Sarah. Wheels up.
Wheels up. So this episode opens to a beautiful white house among trees in Harrington, Tennessee. A voice is heard singing as the camera shot moves inside the house to a woman playing the piano and a young boy singing. As the camera pans round, we see he's got a sheet of music on the stand in front of it, presumably so he can follow the melody as he's singing. And speaking from experience, that is a tough gig to do, because I can't remember what age I was, maybe like 6, 7. I learned to play the keyboard following like sheet music, primary school.
That is really impressive. I could not even play even the beginnings of a piano right up until we stopped learning music in year 9.
Oh, for like them 2 years, because I remember having sheet music at home and I made notes on it in pencil. But we never had to use it for the choir though. We just have lyrics for that for some reason.
That's just ridiculously impressive anyway.
Years later, after I'd stopped doing the keyboard club, I couldn't read music from then on. And no, still can't. Yeah. As they say, if you don't use it, you lose it. So.
Exactly.
Bad terms. So when the music stops and the boy stops singing, the woman turns around to praise him. And we learn the young boy's name is Wally Brisbane. And the woman, we later find out, is his music teacher. So the woman calls out to her son Charlie, who's upstairs, asks if he heard Wally singing. Charlie answers as the camera shot is focused slightly on the front of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Wally tells Charlie that he's going to sing at Mrs. Hatton's Christmas party and will get $5 for it.
That's so cute.
I know, it's adorable. And the camera shot shows Charlie stood upstairs leaning over the banister. Then the woman tells Wally that if he's getting paid, he's a professional.
Mm-hmm.
As Charlie then comes downstairs, his mum asks him if he can walk Wally home. Charlie initially tells her that he was going to go over to his friend's house to play pool, but reluctantly agrees to take Wally home first. Then we see another unfocused shot of the house from outside. The boys are seen running out of the door as the woman stands in the doorway and smiles. The camera watches the boys leaving before focusing on the woman again, via a window as she closes the door and heads back inside. Kind of like from the point of view of like somebody watching.
Yeah.
As she goes back to playing the piano, we see flash cut, unfocused camera shots flitting between the house, a man approaching, and the woman playing the piano. Tension in the melody of the music increases as the intruder moves closer and closer to the woman. Then she screams as he hits her from behind, which is reflected in the mirror, and she slumps on the keys, and the screen goes white. When the scene resumes, we see a piece of sheet music on the floor with blood dripping onto it. The camera then pans up to the bloodied hands on the piano keys. The camera shot then retreats from the house and morphs into a photo on the screen at the BAU headquarters in Quantico, Virginia. Hutch greets the team saying that he hopes everyone had a restful weekend. Epic comment, she goes, that sounds ominous.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
There's no chance your boss is ever asking that because they care about your weekend.
Nah, they don't give a shit. Like, buttering you up.
If you had a good weekend, today's not going to be good.
Nah. We had fun. Here's some random shit. Anyway, so JJ starts outlining the facts of the latest case. So it's in Harringtonville, Tennessee, population around 5,000, and it's been 64 years since the last homicide. But
a wild statistic.
I know, but there's been 2 in the last 48 hours, so
yeah, that's not good.
We're in that trend, isn't it? So we learn that the first victim is 57-year-old widower and grandfather Paul Thompson, who was ambushed in his yard, and he sustained 18 stab wounds to his chest and neck, and a shotgun was stolen from his house. And as JJ's outlining it, there's an image on the screen, it's him and 2 of his granddaughters. Then we learn the second victim is 39-year-old Annie Stewart. She was ambushed in her home and bludgeoned to death with the shotgun stolen from the first victim's house, which is the image on the screen of her smiling. Stolen items from her house were CDs, DVDs, and some jewellery. So the second victim is the woman we see at the beginning. Teacher.
And can I just butt in here before you go on?
Yes.
Sorry, did you say 39?
I know she was way older than that.
Yeah, you know when you're a kid, and so people in their mid-30s are obviously, you know, ancient crones.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you mean she was 5 years older than me?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
It's like, have you ever seen sitcoms from like the 80s and stuff?
Yeah.
And like recently I've seen some stuff on TikTok saying like how old the characters were supposed to be then. And it's like, these guys were in the mid-30s, and I'm like, why did they look 20 years older than me?
Exactly. Like, in the first season of Gilmore Girls, Lorelai Gilmore is 32. And I'm like, no, she's a grown-up. And, like, Lorelai is pretty young for her age anyway, but I'm still like, no, she's a grown-up. She has a job and a mortgage and a kid. And I have 2 cats that only sort of like me. I think it's just that kind of mortality thing when you're like, is that what teenagers do when they see me in the streets? Yeah. They're like, oh, look at that old woman.
And bear in mind, this
34, you fucking brats.
Anyway, back to the recap.
Yeah, back.
So Morgan says this is a little extreme for a burglary. Elle says that's an understatement. Hotch then points out the crime scene photos and mentions that Annie was eviscerated. Reed points out that the first victim wasn't her, and notes that different weapons were used at each crime scene. Hotch says 2 different MOs. Elle questions 2 different killers. Gideon walks in, or 1 very psychotic individual. And as Gideon speaks, he hobbles in on crutches.
Yeah, I wonder if that was him or whether that was like the actor had injured himself.
Who knows? Unless we're just writing into the script.
Yeah, because they have done that occasionally later on in the season. Someone's injured themselves and they've been like, yeah, we'll just write this in. But yeah.
So, Hotch asks what happened to Gideon, and he says he has a list of things he wants to try before it's too late. And Elle's epic comment, and orthopedic surgery is one of them. Gideon replies that he was skydiving, and jokes that it's all about the landing. Everyone giggles.
I don't see Gideon as a skydiving type of person.
Yeah, me neither.
I think it's one of those things that maybe he just like Googled the word bucket list and he was like, yeah I'll take these.
Fuck yeah, I'll try. Hotch then asks Gideon how long they'll be on the crutches for. And Gideon says that it'll be a couple of days. Then Elle asks him, so you can't go in the field? To which Hotch says, no, you can't while he's on crutches.
Also, a couple of days is a bit fast to recover from a skydiving accident you clearly had over the weekend. Yeah.
Hopefully just some severe bruising.
They give you crutches for bruising.
They do, just so that you don't put weight on it too much.
Maybe.
Maybe it's a sprain.
Yeah, that's what it's like.
I don't know, I've never really done that.
Yeah, I don't know about skydiving and I don't care to.
No, me neither. But I like being in a plane. I just wouldn't jump out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Gideon, unable to go out in the field, says, oh, don't worry. I'll find a way to be helpful here.
Oh, and I'm sure you can agree, Sarah, that he does find a way to be extremely helpful.
Yeah.
And not at all a hindrance.
No, not at all.
Yeah, he's just great, Gideon.
So, sorting through the crime scene photos, he notes that it was a blitz attack and that the unsub made no effort to move the body. Hutch says that with organised killers, a pattern can be seen and profilers are able to predict the killer's behaviour. But with psychotic killers, they're guided by a given delusion and they can't predict the killer's next move until they discover what type of delusion the unsub is experiencing. Reed says there might be a clue and mentions that rings of blood found at the crime scene might be some kind of signature. Gideon says he'll look into it and see if the patterns hold any significance. Hutch says that psychotic killers are easier to catch because they don't try to hide. But until they are caught, they will keep on killing. And as Hutch is speaking, Gideon throws a gruesome photo of the second victim on the table. I don't know about you, but it gives shivers through my spine.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Anyway, cue opening credits. In the next scene, it opens at the Stewart house, which has now been cordoned off by crime scene tape. Sheriff Don Hall pulls up in his car, which is a brown cream-coloured vehicle. I thought all police cars were black and white, but I suppose sheriffs are different. I don't know, the American audience will have to advise me if that's common.
That does sound likely.
Yeah. So as he pulls up in his car, he talks to a woman who approaches him. And we later learn this is Deputy Jackie Long. He asks if they are here, presumably referring to the BAU team. The woman replies that most of them are, but one has gone over to the Thompson house. Sheriff questions alone. The woman says he wanted to get a feel for the neighbourhood. Inside the house, Ellie's coming down the stairs. She says that the stolen items were from a bedroom. She questions why the victim's personal cell phone weren't stolen, saying that it doesn't make sense. The sheriff then enters the house, replying that it didn't make sense to us either. Reed points out that the unsub didn't go any closer to the victim than he had to. He addresses Sheriff Hall, saying that it's possible that there were two people in the house at the time of the murder. He also mentions that someone was looking in the medicine cabinet for drugs. Points out excessive methamphetamine abuse can cause psychotic violent episodes.
Mm-hmm.
However, Reed thinks that they're dealing with two very different profiles. The camera then shows a heavily bloodied armchair and blood on the carpet. So Reed thinks that one unsub is a psychotic killer, while the other is just a thief. He reckons that the thief knew the victim. Elle says that the crime scene unit found a soda can by the fence that was hidden in the grass and points out to the location that is now marked by a cone outside. Sheriff Hall says that they believe the suspect or suspects were lying in wait there before entering the house. Elle asks the sheriff if he's already spoken to the kid who was having a singing lesson, referring to Wally. The sheriff confirms and asks why. Elle says she's wondering why Wally didn't mention seeing the suspect. Elle denotes that where she stood, the crime scene unit found 4 of Wally's fingerprints. As she mentions this, the camera focuses on the music sheet stand, showing bloodied paper and evidence tags marking the locations of where the fingerprints were. She points out that from Wally's point of view, if the suspect had been where the sheriff pointed out, Wally would have definitely seen it. In the next scene, there's a camera shot of a child on a swing with a person behind them. They're only seen from the waist down. Elle approaches them and introduces herself. Turns out it's Wally and his mum. Elle tells Mrs. Brisbane that she needs to speak to Wally, but the mum's reluctant, saying that he's been through enough already. She eventually gives in and allows Elle to ask him questions.
And I have to say that I don't understand this. Like, a woman has been killed.
Yeah.
It would be helpful if your son told the police what he saw and then spoke to a therapist about it. Like, his music teacher was killed minutes after he left the house and he saw the killer. That's not like great to just sweep that under the rug, is it? But I think that's very much the theme of the episode.
Yeah.
Mothers protecting their kids, even when it would be better to do anything else.
Yeah. So Ella crouches down to Wally's eye level to speak to him. He describes that the person he saw as crazy, tall, and real skinny. He had a bleeding lip and says that the guy did a shushing motion when he looked at him. Back at the sheriff's office, Elle says that the guy that Wally described sounds like a tweaker. The sheriff tells Deputy Long to pull the files of all meth arrests in the past 6 months. Reed suggests narrowing the suspect list according to the suspect's residence. As he says, crimes like this are always crimes of opportunity, meaning that the closest suspect to the victim is probably likely the one.
Mm-hmm.
The sheriff says he'll narrow down the list while Ellen Reed set up. Back at BAU HQ, Gideon is going over the crime scene photos of the rings of blood in Garcia's office. Garcia walks in holding a file. She offers to give Gideon a hand to move some books back to his office, as she's very eager to move in elsewhere. Because
yes, so would I.
And he starts handing her stuff and asking for reports and blueprints. And visibly she grows more anxious by the second.
Why? Why are they doing this to her? She is an employee. She has her own things to do. She can't, look up locations or previous arrests if, someone is, in the way of her computer. You have your own office, Gideon.
Yeah.
I find it very hard to believe that the FBI can't manage a three-way phone call if they needed to.
I don't know if she's like me, but I'll mess up my own space myself. But if anyone else messes it up, it stresses me. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I know that I have a pile of papers down there that need to be put away. But if my dad came in here and he was like, oh, I see you've got a pile of papers there to be put away and you've got a pile of papers here. And I'd be like, well, thanks, you've messed up piles. So, for instance, last week, I was like, hey, there were some papers on the floor in my office. And Dad's like, oh, yes, I moved them so they were all together. And I was like, right. So where is this piece of paper that I need now? I require it to ring the bank. But anyway, back to poor Garcia.
Well, actually, no, we're back to Hodgmog.
No, I want to make a point about Garcia.
Okay.
Gideon's like, where are the blueprints? I don't want to look at something on a screen. Then get out of the room with all the computers.
Yeah.
If you want to look at some paperwork, might I recommend not the room with 4 computers and no light?
Maybe go back to your own office where there's a big table.
Yeah. And a chair.
Or even go to the conference room, there's a massive table in there.
Yeah. You can spread all of the files out. Yeah. Also, oh wait, no, it's later on in the Gideon bit, so I'll mention it then. Don't worry.
So Hotch and Morgan arrive at the sheriff's office. Reed tells them that Elle spoke to Wally. And Hotch says, well, that's more than we got at the Thompsons. Deputy Long then appears and tells the team that they've narrowed down 2 suspects, Judd Franklin and Domino Thacker. Sheriff Hall walks in and says that he knows Domino. Says he's a serious tweaker and cuts his own stuff. As she did.
Domino is a common name?
Yeah. Maybe he is the... Who knows?
It's a piece of a board. It's a piece of a game. I've never heard that name before. But okay, go ahead.
So Elle asks if Domino lives near the crime scenes, and the sheriff says almost directly between them. So he's the closest one. It's suspect. Morgan is then reading his rap sheet. So there's previous arrests for robbery, armed robbery, possession with intent, and it reveals that Domino's also previously been hospitalized for overdoses and a suicide attempt. and the team agree that they need to find him as soon as possible. In the next scene, the sheriff's car pulls up on a ledge overlooking a yellow house. A man exits the house in only his underwear and seems a bit startled, as you would. As the team exit the car, Domino tries to run. Morgan runs towards him to apprehend him and knocks him over with a property's gate.
Okay, but what happens before Domino starts to run? Because I think it's that from like 200 foot away, Morgan yells, "Stop, FBI." Like, you're not close enough.
No.
He's going to try and outrun you. I don't even understand what the point is. He's not started running yet. Just get closer to him. Why do they always do this in cop shows?
I know. So stop! I'm still 3 feet away, but yeah, I'll catch up to you eventually.
It's like, oh, you're across the other side of the square. Hey, you, stop. Like, just walk across the square. If they don't know that you're coming up behind them, they're not going to run.
Yeah. Never think it through. And so Domino is then apprehended and handcuffed, and in a cell back at the sheriff's office in the next scene, Domino is wrapped in a blanket, complaining that he's freezing. Archie's asking him questions while the sheriff looks on, asking what he was doing at Annie's house. Shivering, Domino mourns that he's sick with the flu.
That's why he has all that cold medicine.
Yeah. The sheriff tries to get him to talk, and Domino eventually admits that he was in Annie's driveway, looking at the car, and claims that he was thinking about stealing it, but then he just left. He also mentions that he saw the kid. Elle tells him that there was some blood found on the bottom of his shoe which belonged to Annie, and the tread of the boots was then seen in the house. Domino claims he didn't do anything to her, but Morgan's unconvinced. Domino then folds and says that he went back to the house and saw a guy leaving wearing a black hood. Stood outside the cell, Morgan summons Domino to the bars and says, "You didn't do this, did you?" Domino shakes his head, so Morgan tries to get a witness statement from him. Domino says that he went into the house and saw Annie lying there, all cut up. He needed money desperately, so he decided to rob her instead. He starts crying, and the team concludes that he wasn't the one who killed her.
Yeah, I do feel sorry for him. Like, I know that he did rob a dying woman, but I also feel sorry for him.
Yeah. So back at HQ, Gideon is still in Garcia's office. And now he's eating noodles with chopsticks. And she's clearly freaking out, as would I if someone's eating in my space, getting stuff everywhere.
Sorry, also, does he normally just spill takeout food all over crime scene documents?
Messy bastard.
Like, sorry if I expect cops to at least kind of eat. Like, I have my food at the desk, but I'm also not, like, looking at crime scene evidence that would be a problem if I spilled my salsa over it.
And I'm pretty sure HQ has a break room, so...
Yeah. Oh, like, for fuck's sake, Gideon, you're a very high-ranking agent. Just ask someone to go get you food, and then they can bring it to your office. Yeah. Stop eating and drinking over Garcia's expensive equipment.
So Gideon cuts Garcia off, asking her what she's holding. Turns out it's the autopsy records. He discovers that Annie was missing her liver and her stomach. Gideon then retrieves his cup of noodles off the table and sees that it's left a circular stain on some of the blueprints. But he's fascinated, so he keeps moving the cup to different spots, as Garcia is trying to tell him that she likes to keep her office clean. And she's like extremely concerned that he's messing up even more. I'd be so anxious, like, Jesus.
And she tries to ask, hey, so what have you figured out? And he's like, he won't want to know. And she's like, no, tell me. And it's like, what do you mean, Garcia? You don't want to hear it. Like, you're always very clear about not wanting to hear these details.
Yeah.
Don't ask a follow-up question.
No, and what she does find out is that Gideon realizes that Annie's organs were put in cylindrical containers. And he says it's anthropophagy.
Oh, wait.
The second PH is an F. Anthropophagy.
Anthropophagy.
That's the thing.
That's the best it's going to get.
Yeah.
We don't know ancient Greek.
Yes.
Sorry.
He says it's anthropophagy, which means man-eating in Greek. He concludes that the unsub is a cannibal. And then cue a camera shot inside a fridge showing blood-filled containers. In the next scene, Hotch is given the unsub's profile. He's a 20 to 30-year-old male, lives close to his victims, potential cannibal. And anthropophagy is a psychotic conviction where they must drink human blood and possibly eat human flesh. Reader references Richard Trenton Chase, aka the Vampire Killer, which Emma will no doubt explain later in the true crime.
Yes, unfortunately.
And just a little brief snippet of what he did. He drank victims' blood because he believed that aliens invaded his body and they were drinking his blood. So he believed that if he didn't drink other people's blood, he wouldn't survive. Ew.
And seeing as you cannot explain psychosis, there's nothing for us to dive into there. Just something absolutely bizarre that someone says, and you're just like, okay, yeah, cool.
Okay, you bye.
Bye.
So the act of anthropophagy denotes extreme level of psychosis and disorganization. Morgan warns the unsub could be anyone in town, and delusion is what's keeping the unsub in the town. Hodge suggests searching the area. The sheriff mentions that Paul Thompson's funeral is taking place that afternoon. It's maybe possible that the unsub may be there. At the next scene, they're at the graveside at the funeral. Hotch and Morgan stand at a distance from the mourners. The rest of the team then appears, and JJ shows Hotch photos of other suspects that they've found. There's Farrell Belvedere, who's 23, he's high on drugs and tore up a cheese counter.
Oh, I'm sorry, but compared to the others on your list, that's just hilarious. He got high and he started throwing some brie about. Woo! Honestly, I would be like, well, that is a story that I can tell people when I leave here.
Yeah.
This guy just walked into the shop and he started having an argument with someone over the cost of cheddar, and then threw a red Leicester at someone.
Oh shit!
Wild, hey?
Could have at least been Wednesday, you know. Anyway, back to the victim. No.
Yeah, this bit gets worse. So sorry.
Back to the suspects. So there's Mark Ward, who's 21. He had 5 counts of petty larceny and had previously had a suicide attempt. The final suspect is Ollie Maynard, and he's 25, and he's been institutionalized for severe manic depression, has violent mood swings, and was arrested at 18 for biting the heads off chickens. So, who do you think out of them 3?
Sorry, wait, that took a turn, didn't it?
From cheese cone to throw in to bite.
Belvedere's like, yeah, so anyway, I hate brie.
Yeah.
Like, fuck the French cheese.
Yeah.
Ward is like, yeah, so I would steal small items of small value.
Yeah.
And I tried to kill myself. And then there's He has violent mood swings and bit the heads off of chickens. And also, I did not appreciate being reminded that the word geek comes from people in the, well, circus, but what P.T. Barnum would call a freak show, who would bite the heads of chickens. It really makes the geek subculture seem very different if you look at it that way.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, that wouldn't have been as successful a show if the Big Bang Theory had taken that premise.
No. Anyway. So the sheriff says that he knows Ollie and says that he was the best defensive lineman in Harringtonville High's history. Turns out that Ollie was only released from hospital a few weeks ago. The team then speaks to a woman in a fur coat who's revealed to be Mrs. Mays. And she says that she saw Ollie 3 days ago with his brother. Both men had quickly exited the car and went straight inside their home.
We'll be back after this short break.
So in the next scene, there's a camera shot of some meat on a counter, and someone begins cutting it with a cleaver. The man cutting the meat is wearing a bloodied apron, clearly a butcher. No relation. I'm just a butcher by name, not by trade. I had to throw in a joke there.
That's a terrible joke.
And the sheriff, Elle, and Morgan then enter the kitchen. The man is revealed to be Jess Maynard, Ollie's brother. They ask him where his brother is, and Jess alludes that he's still in a psychiatric facility. But Sheriff Hall tells him that they've spoken to the hospital and know that he's already been released. Rattling can then be heard coming from a room behind Jess. Morgan asks what it is, but Jess tells him to stay out of there. The sheriff and Elle aim the guns at him, and he looks to grab the cleave off the table. Morgan goes to investigate the room. He opens the plastic flaps covering the doorway and finds Ollie hiding in a corner dressed in a black hoodie and holding a crowbar. Morgan summons Elle to help him. Elle instructs Ollie to put the crowbar down as they aim the guns at him. Scared, he shouts for his brother. Jess pleads with the sheriff not to touch it. Elle tells Ollie again to put the crowbar down. Morgan warns him that the bullet from his gun travels at 1,500 feet per second and asks him how fast he thinks he can get to them with the crowbar. Morgan then tells him again to put it down. The camera jumps between Elle, Morgan, Ollie, and Jess and the sheriff to build tension. Ollie then drops the crowbar. In the next scene, Ollie and Jess are standing next to each other. Jess tells him the FBI needs a confession and will pin the murders on him. Elle tells him that they need to prevent another killing and that they're aware that Ollie was released from an institution in Richmond 3 weeks ago. Ollie is understandably upset. He tells his brother that they should have told everyone that he was already home. Jess tells him to shut up. Jess tells them that people have bullied Ollie his whole life. The dad, other kids, teachers at school. Understandably, he's a protective older brother and won't let anyone do anything to his brother again.
Yeah.
Ollie says that he didn't want to come back home. Elle asks him, well, why did you? He tells her that it was so he could say goodbye. Jess is confused. Jess tells him, you're living with me. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Ollie replies, it's the same old thing. God old Ollie. He's a hell of a ball player, but he's crazy as a loon. He says there's special homes that he can go to. Jess doesn't want him to go and would rather just help him. Ollie said, but he's tired of hiding. Elle asks if he's been taking his meds. Ollie tells her that he has been every day. He then pulls out a few strands of hair and hands it to her, telling her to test it. In the next scene, Wally is standing in the living room singing to an older blonde woman. She has tears in her eyes and it's revealed that she's his grandmother. When he finishes his song, she tells him to sing again, but he just wants to watch TV. As the bell dings, the grandmother gets up and heads to the kitchen. Wally goes to watch TV. We then see a camera shot, slightly unfocused, while watching Ollie from outside. The
I
camera
don't
shot.
know when they make him sing that song again. Like, Do you not think that he has some kind of trauma? The last time he sung that song, someone died. Hey, we don't need to worry about the trauma a 7-year-old could be exposed to. Never mind. Apparently.
Let's. The camera shot slightly unfocused while watching Wally from outside. The grandmother retrieves some cookies from the oven and tells Wally to turn the volume down on the TV. We then get some grainy footage of someone entering the house. An unfocused camera shot of the grandmother switching the light on, then a figure appears above her with a knife. Grandmother then screams, and then the screen goes black. We then get grainy footage of Wally looking to his right, and the camera moves in closer, focusing on his eye, before the screen goes static and then black. In the next scene, the grandmother's house is now a crime scene. Deputy Long is talking to Ellen Sheriff Hall, saying a neighbour across the street heard a car screech out the driveway about 25 minutes ago. The car belonged to the grandmother, who was revealed to be Lynette Giles. The car is a gold sensitive Buick, and an APB has already been put out on it. Deputy Long tells them that Wally's parents have just got home from work. Then cue Wally's mum barging in, shouting at Elle, saying, "I wish to God he'd never spoken to you. I told you I didn't want him involved." Elle tells her that they're doing everything they can to find him, and the mum becomes hysterical. In the next room, Elle and Deputy Long enter to find Hotch, Reed and Morgan. Hotch mentions that Wally was at the last 2 crime scenes. Morgan suggests that the unson may have been after the boy all along. Sarcastically, Elle says she's sure that's what Mrs. Brisbane thinks. Hotch wants Elle to talk to her when she's calmed down a bit, but Elle thinks that Mrs. Brisbane won't want to talk to her. Hotch tells Elle to persuade her, and reluctantly she leaves and goes to talk to her.
No, just send a different agent. Send Morgan. What are you doing, Hotch? Don't send the agent that she is already pissed off at to talk to her.
Never going to get anything out of that. Hotch confirms with Deputy Long that she was the one that found the grandmother's body. She stays in the kitchen with Morgan while Hotch and Reed go to investigate the body in the laundry room. Deputy asks Morgan if he thinks that the unsub was after Wally. Morgan says, "A psychotic mind is hard to predict." He thinks it's merely a coincidence that Wally was at both recent murder scenes. Reed points out that the grandmother has been eviscerated like the previous victim, Annie. Her throat has also been slashed. Hotch says that's probably why no one heard her scream. It's also revealed that the grandmother also had a ribcage split open. With these, Hotch says, as he holds up a pair of blood-soaked bolt cutters.
Yeah,
the room is also
a fucking terrifying thing now that I know that.
And then Reed points out that the heart was the target this time and confirms it's been removed. Back at HQ, Gideon hurriedly hobbles down the hall on his crutches and swings open the door to Garcia's office. He's left this time, but then returned. Garcia's on the phone to Hotch, and Gideon asks Hotch to confirm that the onslaught took the victim's heart. Reed says the heart has always had incredible symbolic significance, aside from just banal romantic associations. The Egyptians left the heart in mummies because they believed that the organ ensured eternal life. Gideon says he read something. Panicked, he tries to retrieve the book from Garcia's desk, but bumps into the back of the chair, hurting himself. Frustrated, he gets Garcia to pass him the book, which he should have done in the first place, but you know.
Go sit down in your own office.
Yes. But Gideon then asks Garcia for the crime scene photos. He compares the photo of one of the bodies to a photo in the book and asks, "Does this body look like an angel?" Garcia said not to her it doesn't, but he tells her to scan the page of the book and send it to the team and see what they think. He mentions an article by a Cambridge professor. All of the organs taken by the unsub, stomach, liver, heart, were thought to be the seat of the soul. Reed deduces that because the unsub drinks the victim's blood, as he does so, he believes he's encountering the divine. Morgan points out that nothing explains why he took Wally, though. Gideon says the unsub made the victim into an angel and suggests that he's made the kid a messianic figure. And then Hutch replies, let's just hope he doesn't feel the need to sacrifice him. Yeah.
Oh my god. Why, Hutch?
In the next scene, we see Charlie Stewart in a car with the sheriff. The sheriff tells him to wait there while he heads into the Stewart residence. As he enters, a phone is heard ringing and a voice leaving a message on the answering machine. There's a woman named Maggie who's sending condolences to Charlie's dad David regarding the death of his wife Annie. The sheriff picks up a round Tupperware box from the floor that is filled with blood. He looks horrified. The scene then transitions from the sheriff holding the tub to Hutch now holding the tub outside of the house. He opens it and tells the sheriff and deputy that it contains a human stomach. The sheriff asks Deputy Long to confirm that none of the neighbours saw anything, as the tub had been placed in the house recently. He tells her they need a 24-hour watch on all the crime scenes. He's concerned. All the team has so far is a theory about religious delusion. He points at the tub and asks how they explain that. Reed mentions that sometimes disorganised killers return body parts to grave sites. It might just be a way for them to manipulate the body even after death. It may also be an act of remorse. Hutch says that even in the most extreme psychotic episodes, there are variations in lucidity, degrees of insightfulness. Reed tries to get into the mind of the unsub and think where he would go if he killed somebody, drank the blood, and then felt bad about it. Hutch then has a realisation, asks the sheriff how many churches that the town has. The sheriff says, gentlemen, this is the Bible Belt. Maybe 15. Hutch recommends putting an officer outside every church. In the next scene, Ellie's sitting in the car and surprised that there's 4 churches in the space of 4 blocks. Morgan sat beside her. She spots a car that looks like the last victim's vehicle, and they watch as a bloodied man exits the vehicle and heads toward the church. As he looks up, we see flashbacks of the grandmother's murder. Elle turns on the headlights and warns the man that they're FBI and tells him not to move. Elle and Morgan exit their car and approach the man with their guns drawn. They force him to get on his knees and put his hands on his head. Elle finds a Tupperware box full of blood behind him and shows it to Morgan. The unsub then starts screaming. In the next scene, images flash in the eye of the unsub as he continues to scream while sitting in the cell. The sheriff tells Hutch the man is Eddie Mays and he's 21. Hutch asks if the sheriff knows him. He confirms and seems surprised that Eddie would do something like this because he's a nice kid. Reed says that Eddie is mentally ill, could technically use an insanity plea in court. And then we see jumpy cuts of Eddie to highlight his delusional state. Hutch says that it's ironic that psychotic illness means sufferers are generally less violent than the rest of the population. But Elle then points out that by the nature of psychotic delusions, when sufferers are violent, it is very extreme. Morgan looks at Eddie and realises that they'll never get a confession from him in that state, because he can't read him his rights, can't process him. Sheriff Hall says that he'll call Eddie's mother. His dad had died a few years ago. Hutch asks what the family's like. The sheriff says that the dad was a doctor and his mother, Mary Gwethme Mays, comes from one of the oldest families in Tennessee. Hutch says that he'd like to meet the mother. Elle points out that they've already met her. In the next scene, Mrs. Mays is talking to Hutch, and it turns out she's the woman from the graveyard who was wearing the fur coat. She's horrified at what Eddie has done.
Note, oh, it's fur bitch again.
Yeah.
Just because I really hate it seeing people wear fur. So I didn't even know she was evil, and I was like, what a fucking
bitch. So Mrs. Mays is horrified at what Eddie's done, and she claims that she didn't know he was in town. JJ asks her if she's aware of how sick her son is. Mrs. Mays says that he had trouble adjusting to school and mentions of an incident the previous year, but says that they got him help for it. Hutch and JJ ask her to help them. They tell her that Eddie's kidnapped 7-year-old Wally Brisbane and she's shocked. Hotch asks her to allow them to give him antipsychotic meds to make him more lucid and hopefully remember where he took Wally. Yes, I'm trying not to make a Where's Wally joke, but I suppose that joke doesn't work in the US.
No, it's Where's Waldo there. You know, that very common name, Waldo.
Where's Wally? Mrs. Mays is concerned about Wally's parents. She agrees to sign the form but seems hesitant with the pen. Mentions praying that the boy is okay, but she looks very suspicious. In the next scene, Hotch is on a video conference call to Garcia. Literally mid-2000s Zoom meeting.
Yeah, but they probably still had a better connection than we do.
True, that is a good point.
Although, hey, have you noticed? I've got my internet. I got the new faster internet since we last did a Zoom. I haven't had once a message come up saying your internet connection is poor.
Oh, I had one earlier saying your internet connection is unstable.
Oh, no, I used to get those like 2 or 3 times and I was like, I've got fibre broadband. Turns out, by the way, the person that installed the last fibre broadband that I was supposed to have connected it from where the wire enters the house to the wire at the top of the house, did not connect it to the telegraph pole. So we didn't have fibre broadband at all.
A bit weird. Very
Hey, I've got much better internet now.
yeah. Garcia says that she's spoken to Eddie's college roommate, who says Mrs. Mays was very overprotective of her son. She called him 3 times every day, and once went up to Boston to break up his relationship because she didn't like the girl that he was dating.
My fucking God. Imagine if our parents had done that.
I tell you.
Imagine if our parents called us 3 times a day while we were at uni.
I know.
Like, I think my parents, I think I called them like once a week.
Yeah. At college, Eddie reportedly partied like an 80s clubber, but he suffered a delusional break due to meth and rock cocaine consumption. Hotch replies, wow, that is partying like an 80s clubber. So we know what Hotch was doing in the 80s.
Oh no.
Garcia says that Eddie was admitted to a mental health facility in Boston, checked himself out about a week ago and made his way home. Hotch asks what his major at college is. Garcia tells him comparative religion. Hotch doesn't seem surprised.
Yeah, that's not great.
Hotch then asks her what it's like having Gideon around, and Garcia says, you can have him back whenever you like. Hotch just laughs at her.
Yeah, she's a lot more diplomatic than I would be.
In the next scene, Elle is looking at some coats hung up in a hallway. Morgan appears saying, hey. Elle jumps, as would I if someone just appears around the corner.
Yeah.
Morgan laughs at her. He tells her that she's too tense and asks if she's got anything. Elle tells him that...
Sorry, wait a second. You snuck up behind a woman, shouted hey, after 3 people have been like bludgeoned in blitz attacks in this small town. What the hell's wrong with you, Morgan?
Elle tells him that Mrs. Mays is OCD as her house looks like a home decorating catalogue.
Sorry, we covered OCD in episode 2.
Yeah.
It's not about neatness. Continue.
Morgan says that he checked the house. All like bedrooms, fireplaces, nothing. No evidence of murder, no sign of the boy. He doubts that Eddie has been home, or if he has, he's left no evidence. Elle then sniffs the air and asks Morgan if he smells something. He says he smells bleak. Elle follows the scent to the fridge and opens it. Empty and extremely clean. He searches all over the fridge and then Morgan spots something on the floor and nudges the fridge back. Upon shining his torch on the floor, we see a ring of blood, presumably from the bottom of a Tupperware box. Elle says...
I have a question. Sorry, no, I have a question. So does that mean that the fridge was initially pushed back and someone had put the Tupperware box on the floor, and then when cleaning it, she just like brought the fridge forward, like, oh, I can't bother to clean the floor as well. I've just done the entire fridge. Let's just move the fridge forward and cover it up.
Seems a bit weird.
Like, I don't get that.
No. Elle replies, looks like somebody missed the spot. Back at the sheriff's office, Eddie is receiving the anti-psych meds. He's screaming. An officer opens the cell to allow the doctor to leave. She tells Hotch that she's administered the haloperidol and says the effects are coming on. The full effect should be in about 15 minutes. She warns him that while the drug makes it appear that Eddie is asymptomatic, it won't remove his delusional state. It may make him more lucid, but she warns him that she did it for his own sake, not just so Hotch could put him through an interrogation. She says that Eddie needs to be hospitalised. Snarkily, Hotch tells her that while a jury may agree with her, Eddie does need to answer her questions as they need to find the young boy as soon as possible. Hotch and Reed enter Eddie's cell. From Eddie's point of view, shots the blurry and unfocused. He understands he's in jail. Hotch asks if he knows why. Eddie says that he was very bad, but he's much better now. Hotch asks if he remembers hurting anyone. Eddie just looks through him and starts fidgeting. Hotch then asks him where he went to college. Eddie says Boston. Hotch asks if he likes Boston. Eddie says he doesn't know. Reed asks him his favourite thing about Boston. Eddie says that he went to Harvard Square and had a cappuccino. Hotch shows him a photo of Wally and asks if he remembers him. Eddie then smiles and said that he knows the Brisbanes. Hotch asks if he took Wally. Eddie says no. Hotch tries to empathise with Eddie, saying that he knows he's uncomfortable and asks if he knows why his arms and hands are cut up and bruised. Eddie says yeah. Hotch says, "You killed 3 people, Eddie." Eddie just repeats what he said. Reed shows him crime scene photos of the bodies and says their names aloud as he shows them. Upon seeing them, Eddie becomes distressed. And he starts screaming, no, stop it. You will be punished. God is punishing you. No, I brought you an angel. See? It appears that he's talking to somebody who isn't there. Hotch, Reed and the sheriff then leave the cell. Eddie screams, "When will you leave me alone?" Frustrated, Sheriff Hall tells Hotch that they need Eddie to tell him where the boy is. Hotch says that they won't get anything out of him until his delusional episode is under control. The sheriff is extremely concerned, and Mrs. May just looks at him. Deputy Long then screams, alerting the others. She's in a rush to find her key to the cell as everyone runs towards her. They eventually open the cell door to find Eddie hanging himself over the toilet from the bars on the window. They fight to save him as Deputy Long and JJ hold Mrs. May's back as she watches on, horrified and distraught. Speaking to Mrs. Mays, Hotch asks why she never told them that Eddie was in a mental hospital. Reed says he spoke to the hospital and they told him that Eddie was released a week ago, and they apparently called her to pick him up, but she never arrived. She reiterates that she didn't know he was coming home. Hotch asks her why blood was found in her utility room. She claims she cut her legs pruning roses. Hotch seems convinced that she pruned roses in winter. Mrs. Mays seems hostile and defensive. She wants to go and see Eddie, but Reed tells her just to stay there. Hotch joins the rest of the team and says that she's lying. JJ asks if he thinks she'll let Wally die to save her son. He doesn't know. Morgan confirms Mrs. May drives a Cadillac and says that those cars have GPS in them and they could possibly track where she's been.
Finally a break.
In Mrs. May's car, Elle scrolls through the maps and journey details. Morgan says, these things could cause more divorces than internet porn. He's not right. He's not right.
Sorry, I've got a question. How many people are getting divorced over internet porn?
Who knows?
Like, that's not being unfaithful, just like watching porn. Never mind.
Anyway, moving swiftly on.
Don't have time to get into this.
They know that Mrs. May has stopped at the same place on Route 3 6 times. Hotch recommends getting her and pretends to take her to the hospital to see Eddie, but instead going there to check this location. In the car, Hotch asks Mrs. Mays how long she's lived in Harringtonville. She says all her life, and her ancestors have been there since the late 18th century. But she went to school in Virginia. She then realises that they're not going the right way to the hospital. Hotch lies to her and says that they just needed to make a quick stop first. He then asks her what school she went to. She replies that for high school she went to St. Catherine's Hall, and for college, Sweetbriar. Hotch replies, "Oh, you were a Sweetbriar vixen?" Mrs. May seems surprised that he knows the college, and he tells her that his mum went to Mary Baldwin and was from Manassas in Virginia. Mrs. May said that she knows the area. She then becomes increasingly concerned when she realises that they're now leaving town. Hotch distracts her again, this time asking about her name. Gwathmey is an old Tidewater family, isn't it? She asks again where they're going. Hotch, ignoring her, says Old South, old money, a lot of tradition down there, a lot of reputation to protect. She takes offence from this statement. Hotch tells her that he thinks she was protecting herself rather than her son, from the shame and humiliation of people finding out that he was mentally ill. And he points out that she's never visited him in hospital in 6 months. The car then stops, and Elle tells her that they checked the GPS on her car and found she stopped at this location 6 times in less than 2 hours. Hotch warns her a dozen officers are heading to their location with police dogs in order to find the boy. Hotch tells her that it'll be in her best interest to help her. Just then a swarm of police cars arrive and officers and dogs run through the trees to a fenced-out building. Elle finds Wally wrapped in a blanket in a corner, alive. He runs towards her and hugs her. She hugs him back and then sends him to his parents who have arrived at the scene. They embrace him. Mrs. Mays asks Hotch if he has any children, then asks if there's anything he wouldn't do for them. Hotch replies, "I wouldn't clean the blood off the victims of the floor." She claims she didn't know Eddie had killed anyone until he brought Wally home. Hotch says, "You know, Mary, sometimes what we don't do is every bit as powerful as what we do." He says he understands her son was drowning, but points out that she made no effort to save him. Mrs. Mays replies, "You don't know what I did." Hotch says he knows she didn't call the police and that she'll regret not going to Boston to help him. Mrs. Mays says, "Eddie told me he was bringing me an angel. I wanted to protect my son. What else was I supposed to do?" Hotch replies, "Almost anything would have been better."
Yeah.
Yeah, literally.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. And here we get the return jets. And Gideon's closing bookend quote is, Harriet Beecher Stowe once said, "The bitterest tears shed over graves are for words left unsaid and deeds left undone." Back at HQ, the team exit a lift. Hotch compliments them for their hard work. Elle says, "Now I've got to get back to the 15 folders on my desk." Reed seems surprised and says, "Wait a minute, 15? I have 24. And then Elle says, "That's because I slipped before mine on Friday." Hotch bumps into Garcia and says, "Hey, sweetheart." Garcia snappily says, "Don't sweetheart me. I may not be a supervisory special agent, but that does not make me maid." Hotch asks what she means. Garcia points out the box that she's carrying and says that it's the 3rd box of crap that Gideon's left in her office. And there's still 2 more, and everything smells like soy sauce. Hotch says he'll take care of it. Hotch knocks on Gideon's door and gives him a box. He tells Gideon he knew that the crutches wouldn't last long. Gideon said that he'd rather limp. Hotch says, "Well, you managed to get on Garcia's nerves pretty thoroughly." Gideon, "Who's Garcia?" Hotch, "Penelope, the tech with the glasses." And then Gideon, "In the room with the screens." Hotch, "Yep." Gideon,
"How do you not know her name?
I think he was just taking.
She is on your team. You have been in her office for days.
I know.
You've worked with her on at least 10 previous cases."
Hotch then suggests sending her a basket of something, and Gideon agrees. Hotch then notices Gideon's bucket list. 25 things he wants to do before he dies. Hotch asks him where he's up to. Gideon tells him it's almost completed. 23 and 24 have just been recently done. Says he needs a new listening. Hotch says, not until you do them all, alluding to the last one. Gideon says he doesn't want to hear from me. Hotch says, we don't know until you try. Hotch then leaves the room and Gideon sighs, begins dialing the number on his phone. Turns out he's phoning his son, Stephen. His son answers and the two have a pleasant conversation. And Gideon seems happy. End credits.
Thanks for that, Sarah. We'll be back with the episode discussion after this short break.
Hey listeners, it's Emma from the editing booth again. Just letting you know that there has been a small technical error, and for this section of the podcast, only the audio is available. Sorry about that, but please bear with us, and the video will be back again for the true crime recap. Thanks! And now we're back to talk about this episode, its interesting points, notable guest stars, and of course, who will be our baby girl or pretty boy of the episode. Let's move straight on to interesting points. So Sarah, you had actually written these, so do you want to go over them and I'll take notable guest stars?
Yes, so interesting points. There is no opening booking for this week. No. And the other interesting point is and Gideon stuck at HQ this week. Oh, Garcia. You driving it. Hopefully next week you'll be back on the field as well.
Yes, hopefully. I just looked on the IMDb to see if there were any more interesting points, because I wanted to find out if it was Mandy Patinkin had actually done something to his leg. And anyway, so on the IMDb, they've got user reviews, and it's just ridiculous. Sorry, the featured reviews are mediocre episode, painfully bad accent. And CM on a 2-episode losing streak. Like, who wrote these? Oh hey, I do have an interesting fact about the episode. So in the episode, Wally sings the song "This Is My Father's World" with his music teacher, but the sheet music displayed both on the piano and later splattered with blood. The sheet is titled correctly. The music on the sheet is not "This Is My Father's World," but instead a beginning piano piece called "The Spinning Wheel." Like, why would you do that?
Well, because they didn't think anyone would pick up on it, but obviously.
Yeah, but even so, would it not be easier to get the like music notes for that than to be like, right, okay, this piece is the spinning wheel and we're going to doctor it so it's got "This Is My Father's World" at the top. But okay, cool, yeah, why not, whatever.
Should we move on to notable guest stars?
Yes, we should. So Doug Jones, he plays Domino Thacker. He's most notable for the roles of the Faun or the Pale Man in Pan's Labyrinth, which I haven't watched because it's all in Spanish, isn't it? Okay. I'm pretty sure a friend tried to get me to watch it and then was like, oh, by the way, it's all in Spanish, so you have to read the subtitles. And I was like, sorry, do you think I can read the subtitles with nystagmus? It's hard enough keeping my pupils still without it competing with the fact that it's text across a moving screen. So I'm pretty sure that's it, because I didn't watch it. He also played Abe Sapien in the Hellboy films and the Amphibian Man in The Shape of Water. Oh, 3 films that all actually have kind of like, it's got the kind of genre where it's like a creature movie, isn't it? Like, at least that's what I get from the front cover of the Hellboy DVD, because I'm pretty sure that he's got pins in all across his head.
All 3 roles would have required some sort of like
a lot of time in the makeup chair, and would creep me out. So I'm glad I didn't watch him in anything else. Sorry, you're probably a great actor. I'm just not going to watch it. And then you found out that Eddie Mays is played by Chris Lemesh, who's most notable for the role of Ian McKinley in Final Destination 3. And I was like, no fucking way, he looks so different.
Like when I saw him, I recognised the face, but I just couldn't put the face to a name. So then when I looked up, I was like, oh shit, it is him.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
like knowing it was him, and then looking back, you're like, oh shit, yeah, it is him.
Yeah, I could see it when I saw, because all I remember from his entire presence in that movie is just basically the bit where he's at the fair and then he dies, so it's possibly not the best. Possibly not the best one to be like, right, that is how I'm committing his face to memory, because his face is, you know, contorted a lot by the death. So yeah, I couldn't believe that. Also, hey, there's a new Final Destination coming out, which I think is what I mentioned about 2 weeks ago.
It's already in the cinemas.
Yeah, it is. And so Sarah will know about my long-running quest to get Final Destination 4 on DVD, because I have always been like trying to get it, like at the time at HMV I tried to get it and they were like, oh yeah, we've got 1, 2, 3 and 5, and I was like, right, why don't you have 4? And then in subsequent years it's been like, my goodness, 15 years and I still have not found it. Like, why is it this hard to find? It's very hard to find even second hand. And like, when you look for it online, they're like, oh no, this is clearly a rare DVD, so it's going to be like £23. And you're like, I'm not paying £23 for a used DVD, are you insane? I've derailed the episode, but at least this time it's about Final Destination and not about people I'm trying to alienate from the podcast. I haven't even mentioned them in this episode. There's still time. So we also have Mark Ralston. He played Sheriff Don Hall, and he's most notable for the roles of Boggs Diamond in The Shawshank Redemption and Private Mark Drake in Aliens. I've not seen Aliens, so I don't recognise him, but I do recognise Boggs Diamond from The Shawshank Redemption because I watched it over the weekend. Now, right, so Wally Brisbane, amazing singer, right? Like, that is an incredible performance, and you're like, well, he must have gone on to do a lot. Anyway, turns out, I looked up his IMDb because I thought, oh, Sarah must have just somehow missed this. I've no idea what's wrong with her. How could she miss this? He's clearly, like, amazing. And so he has 5 credits on his IMDb. 1 is this episode, 3 are uncredited roles, and 1 is a named credit in a short film, which is like 19 minutes long. And so basically the film is called The Erogenous Zone, and I looked at the date it was released, and I was like, that means he would have been like 13 when he filmed this. What is this? And I was like, and it's a short, so it's not even like he's a kid in the neighbourhood that you see when you're driving past. And so I desperately tried to find out what this was, because it was just so interesting to me at that point. I was like, so all I've managed to do is ruin our YouTube recommendations for the podcast account, so sorry about that, Sarah. He did have an IG, an Instagram. I don't know why I said IG out loud. Fucking hell. So he does have an Instagram, but it seems to be like really curated. Like, he has maybe 20 photos on there. Anyway, I couldn't see anything more recent about his career. Maybe he's modelling, maybe he's left show business. Either way, it does look like he's having a blast from the photos on his Instagram. But yeah, So now we move on to our baby girl or pretty boy of the episode, which is our episode MVP. We name them baby girl or pretty boy because that is Morgan's pet names for Garcia and Reed. And now, Sarah, do you want to kick it off with what the hell you thought? Because let's discuss this.
Well, in the notes I said Hotch or Gideon, not sure. Hoping that Emma would give me a better idea of who to choose.
Yeah. And then when I saw this, I was like, are you kidding me, Sarah? He destroys Garcia's office, treats her like an assistant, and doesn't even have the decency to remember her name.
Okay, so maybe not Gideon.
Yeah. It's nice that he met up with his son and all, but you know, it's nice that he's made up with Stephen. But are you fucking kidding me?
As for Hodge, I'm thinking because he was leading the episode, he was leading the investigation this time. So he was kind of like bossing the investigation. Being a good leader and all that shit.
Yeah.
But then I saw that you mentioned Wally.
Yes.
And now I think you mentioned it, I think we gotta hand it to the little guy.
Yeah.
Well, he's unlucky to be at 2 crime scenes and then was subsequently kidnapped. Ultimately, he was found alive, thank God.
Yeah.
But that poor kid's gonna need serious therapy.
Yeah. So.
I think just for that reason alone, we gotta choose what it is.
Yes, I genuinely think that. He helped the police with their investigations. He's been through a lot of trauma, and that kid is a really good actor. And like a singer. I suppose he didn't have much of an acting role, but he was a really good singer, and he helped the police with the investigations. I think it has to be him. Like, honestly, I would rather not have it than give it to Gideon this week. I'd be like, hey, what about that unnamed woman from 7 episodes again? Can we give it to her again?
Yeah.
Hey, Tanya.
We'll ask them.
Oh.
Good day, good time. Anyway, we'll be right back with a true crime recap after the show break. Welcome back for our true crime recap. Emma, it's time to deliver the product.
Okay, so this episode appears to be based on the crimes of Richard Trenton Chase, also known as the Vampire of Sacremento because he drank his victims' blood and ate part of their bodies. He killed 6 people between December 1977 and January 1978, which is a really small window for your crime spree.
That's what I was thinking.
Now, so, as with Eddie Mays, it does seem clear to me that Chase is suffering from psychosis and not getting the help that he needs. Now, I'm not excusing what he did because his crimes, as you will find out pretty damn quickly, are horrific. And they just continue to get worse. So, seriously, take it as this is starting off really freaking light. But it is just like, you know, if his parents had done something, like, had they stepped in and been like, hey, my kid's acting a bit weird and I don't think this is normal, then a lot of this might not have happened. In fact, I think the people that I've decided to alienate for this episode, Sarah, are the parents who don't get their kids diagnosed because they don't want them to be labeled by the system. Oh, cool. So you're denying your child appropriate health care because you don't want people to think, oh, they're scary. Like, So I know that a lot of it is the stigma of mental health, and a lot of it is the problem where someone is labeled with a mental illness, particularly if it's not like anxiety, depression. And people are like, oh no, they're so scary, when really they're more likely to be the victim of violence than the perpetrator. But fucking hell, why are you making your kids live through something that is incredibly horrific for them because you don't want to get them diagnosed? Would you do the same thing if it was diabetes? Oh, well, my kid's lost a lot of weight and appears to be drinking a lot of water and is like going to the bathroom a lot, but I don't want them to be labeled with something. Oh, really? Well, they're going to get diabetes ketoacidus or whatever it is, and their blood is literally going to turn to acid and kill them.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm not excusing Chase's crimes. They're horrific, but I do think that at any point his parents could have stepped in and been like, you know what, maybe we will get him to see a psychiatrist. So, Chase was born in 1950 to Beatrice and Richard Sr., followed shortly afterward by sister Pamela. It wasn't a particularly happy childhood, with parents often arguing. Once, Beatrice started an argument on a camping trip, accusing Richard Sr. of having an affair with, and I am quoting the Wikipedia page here, a woman hiding in the bushes. I wanted to tell you that because it's as light as this story is going to get. A woman hiding in the bushes. There's indications from what I've read of Richard Sr. sexually assaulting his wife, which was still legal in the USA until 1993, and physically assaulting his children. Sadly, this was considered normal at the time. Oh my fucking god. By 5, Chase was exhibiting behaviours known as the homicidal triad: persistent bedwetting, starting fires, cruelty to animals. But it's noted that this didn't affect his popularity, and 60 kids once came to one of his birthday parties. And I don't know about you, Sarah, but I've never had that many kids to my birthday, and the worst thing I ever did was kill a spider once.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
Like one time I had there was 20 plus kids, but then it was a joint party between me and my sister, and then 2 brothers who lived up the street. Because all our birthdays were in the same month.
I once remember my parents hiring out the local community centre, a room there, so that, because I remember there was a clown there or a magician or something, when I was 7, and you invite the whole class. But I imagine that had I started, messing around with fire and being cruel to animals, I don't know that the kids in my class would have wanted to come.
Yeah, same.
So he also started to show some other odd behaviour, which apparently the people in his life were more concerned over than the animal cruelty. This included believing he was a member of the James Younger gang, even pasting his head onto photos of them and trying to sell them. If you're wondering why, I don't know. Who is buying, hey, I'm in this gang, right? Look at this photo. And no, that I haven't just glued a photograph of me on top of a photograph of someone else from the gang. Also, would you like to buy it?
What is he doing signing them?
I don't know. And also, he asked his mum if he could get a cowboy hat, and she was like, no. I was like, sorry, that's where you stepped in. You can't have a cowboy hat. Of all the things to step in on and be like, no, it's the cowboy hat. Right. Anyway, so that, to be honest, light relief.
Hmm.
He would then sleep nude in the family's lounge with the heating up high and the windows fully open.
That's a waste of eating.
Yep. And still one of the lighter moments of this episode. In his teenage years, he began taking drugs like weed and LSD and growing his hair long because it was the 60s. And it's a real shame he didn't just go the whole hog, embrace the hippie lifestyle, peace and love man, and go to Woodstock, because things go downhill very fast. He's 15 and he has a girlfriend, and he discovers that he's impotent after trying to have sex with her. He can't maintain an erection. And because erectile dysfunction wasn't talked about, and there's the whole toxic masculinity thing, he never got help, and it majorly affected his relationships with women. He graduated high school, but in early adulthood, he dropped out of college and ran through a series of jobs. This, not the unusual part. In February 1971, two women, Sid Evans DeMarche and Rachel Statham, found him sitting on their lawn, and after talking to him for a bit, he got them to agree to ask him to be their roommate. You know, that normal thing that would happen if you came home and saw someone sitting outside your door. That's normal, right, Sarah? If I get home from Tesco's later, I'll go pick up my shopping, get some milk, and if there's just some guy sitting in the forecourt when I come back, I'm just like, hey, how are you? Yeah, no, haven't seen you before at all. Anyway, would you like to move in?
Weird.
His parents gave him $50 a month for his share of the rent, but eventually both girls moved out due to Chase's behavior, including doing drugs, walking around the house naked even when there were guests over, and barricading himself in his room. And I'm sorry, but this might just be what happens when you select your roommate based on who is sitting outside your house when you get home. Like, if all it took was, he's here and he's talked to us for 20 minutes, maybe you just get a roommate that does drugs and barricades himself in his room and walks around naked.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you didn't do any further checks. Anyway, luckily, the girls are able to leave, and as far as I know, they were never subjected to anything worse than that. Statham's brother and his friends, who were in a band, they moved in, but Chase would often interrupt their jam sessions, wanting to play the conga, which is apparently a drum and not the dance, because originally I did think it was that. This caused arguments, and eventually the band moved out too. How annoying do you have to be for a rock band to be like, this is too much for us?
Fuck this.
You need to calm down and lay off the drugs. We're gonna go.
Yeah.
Chase couldn't afford the rent, and it seems like at this point he moved back in with his parents, although didn't say it. Now, he also became, in his early adulthood, it's described as a hypochondriac, but I feel like this is more like psychosis, because he's not going to the doctor and is like, hey, I feel tired and I read that this can be a sign of cancer. He's saying stuff like, my heart just stops beating sometimes and someone's stolen my pulmonary artery. That's not hypochondria. No one is like going into the doctors and they're like, well, my heart just stops beating sometimes, because the doctor would be like, what? Like, I've noticed a very small symptom, and I think it's the worst case scenario. And you know, just to give you some levity, because I see that you're thinking, Oh God, where is this going? He started putting oranges on his head to absorb vitamin C. Honestly, a high point. He also thought that the cranial bones that make up his skull had begun to separate, so he shaved his head in order to watch this. And again, I don't think this is hypochondria. I think it's psychosis, and maybe the doctors should have taken him a bit more, not literally, but seriously when he came in.
Yeah, I think what he was a jacket where he could hug himself in a nice padded cell. Yeah.
I don't want to demonise people with mental illness, but I do think that doctors should perhaps be like, sorry, did you say someone's stolen your pulmonary artery? Yes, this does seem concerning, sir. Please sit down. I need to go and consult with some other doctors about this, and we're happy to admit you. Yeah. Like, at this point, did you just have him go, someone stole my pulmonary artery, and you just went, yeah, right, get out? Like, fucking hell. Chase's parents divorced in 1972, and then Chase, who was living between his parents' home, depending on which one wasn't sick of him that week, Chase accused his mother of trying to poison him, and then got a DUI. And when his dad came to bail him out, Chase said the police had gassed him and he wanted to sue them, something the dad convinced him not to do. But again, no one got him looked at by a psychiatrist or anyone. Now, Richard Sr., of course, didn't believe in mental illness and instead blamed his son's lack of work ethic for his, spiraling life. Chase's mother once called the police on him when they were arguing, and then he hit her with the landline phone she was using to call the police. And when the police arrived, she refused to press charges. I'm not saying that he should have been locked up at this point. I am saying he needed mental health care. What is wrong with you? Twice he lived with his grandmother in LA because neither of his parents wanted him around. The first time he worked for his uncle, driving a bus for children with intellectual disabilities, and thank God it does not go as badly as I assumed it would when I first read about that. He gets fired for not cleaning the bus or changing the oil. Frankly, thrilled to hear it. Honestly, best case scenario, he gets fired because he didn't clean the bus.
Yeah.
His grandmother noted the following odd behaviours. He would roam the house at night, sleep all day, become convinced that someone was breaking in, talk to himself, stand on his head to get the blood to run back down to his head, complaining of heart problems and pain in his leg. Okay, this is the 70s. I understand that no one takes mental health very seriously, but at least get him to the doctor and say, oh, he's complaining about the heart issues, and then when the doctor's like, oh, I can't hear anything, hold up a big massive sign behind him saying everything else. Like,
somebody should have done something.
Yep. Unfortunately, Sarah, no one did do anything. In the summer of 1973, Chase returned to Sacramento and began to cut photos of human organs out of medical books and stick them on the wall like I do with goddamn postcards. He was trying to work out what was wrong with him, even calling an ambulance, which refused to take him to the hospital when they saw that he wasn't having a medical emergency, like not being able to breathe or having heart pains. I hope people are watching the vodcast for this, because otherwise they just missed me and you basically doing gestures to each other. Like, what the fuck? There are so many times at which someone could have stepped in, and the worst thing he's done up until this point is hurt animals, which I do think is very bad, but is not as bad as what he goes on to do. Finally, after seeing 3 separate doctors, Dr. Donald Ansell concluded that Chase had a psychiatric disturbance of major proportion. Yeah, no shit. Thanks. And then, if you're thinking, well, I'm sure it gets better from there, Emma. No, the next sentence I have written down is, then Chase killed one of his cats after a news story about another cat receiving medical treatment that Chase thought he himself should receive.
Yeah, I have no words.
I mean, 1, your cat is not preventing you from getting medical care. And 2, do you just want to go to a vet then? I mean, honestly, let's see what the vets can do. The doctors don't seem to be doing great. Anyway, that December, he spends 2 days in the psychiatric ward after going to an emergency room and saying he couldn't breathe and his heart is stopped. And fucking finally, someone diagnoses him with acute paranoid schizophrenia, although they do say he might be having a psychotic episode due to illegal drugs. But for some fucking reason, his mother confronts the doctors in a manner described as highly aggressive, hostile, and provocative, so Chase was discharged. What?
Why? Tell them on
He did start taking his meds and his condition improved for a little while, but I can't help thinking that he perhaps wouldn't have stopped taking the meds and begun using drugs again if he got the needed care. Well, that didn't happen, so Chase began exhibiting signs of psychosis and paranoia as well as violence. Rather than, say, taking their son back to the hospital, his parents got him an apartment. You know, normal things. And any signs of odd behaviour, like, say, keeping live rabbits in the apartment to eat them raw, that was just brushed under the rug. They noted, his apartment's very clean, isn't it? Like, sorry, what? At this point, I'd maybe accept there being, like, dirty dishes in the sink for a week.
Yeah.
Sorry, he's just told you that he's buying live rabbits, killing them and eating them raw. And your response is like, anyway, on with the chess game, son. He was involuntarily committed to a mental institution in 1976 because he'd injected rabbit blood into his veins, which caused blood poisoning, apparently. Who knew? He told the emergency room doctor a bizarre story about eating a rabbit that had battery acid in its stomach. And I still think that that's less bizarre than the truth. He said his body was falling apart and, like, yeah, I mean, you're injecting rabbit blood.
Yeah.
And you're eating raw animals all the time.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't know what's happened with this battery acid. Yeah, maybe your body is falling apart. Like, my body's falling apart, and I'm not doing any of that. And in case you're thinking, wow, I bet he got really good care in this psychiatric institution. Are you thinking that, Sarah? Early 1970s? well known for good mental health care. Yeah, no. The staff at American River Hospital Psychiatric Health Facility called him Dracula because he was fascinated with blood, breaking the necks of 2 birds that he caught from the window to drink their blood. He also used stolen syringes to take blood from therapy dogs that were in there with other patients. You know, normal things. Later that year, he was somehow determined to be not a threat to society and was released to his mother's custody against the agreement of the institution's staff.
What the hell?
You know, if it had just stopped here, at least maybe, you know, there are a few dead rabbits and some dead birds, but he was eating them, at least. Maybe that's like a strange sort of hunting, and the dogs are probably fine with just having a little blood taken out. That's okay. I'm sure if it just, you know, continued to be in the institution less. Yeah. Anyway, his mother, without consulting any doctor, weaned him off his medication because it made him like a zombie. Got him another apartment where he progressed from eating birds and rabbits to eating puppies. We should have a major warning at the start of this for animal abuse. Yeah. Like, he would go and buy puppies from a litter, and then I have spared you the graphic details of how he killed them.
Thank you.
But absolutely gross.
Yeah.
Sickening. Some of the animals were even reportedly, they seemed suspicious of him and didn't want to leave with him. In August 1977, Chase was arrested in Nevada after being found naked, covered in blood, and in possession of a bucket which had a liver in it. Still, the blood was determined to be cow blood, and no charges were filed. Because, sorry, did anyone look into the liver in the bucket?
Yeah.
Is that a cow liver? Did he have any reason to be covered in cow's blood? Was he working in a butcher's shop? Oh, yeah. Gonna get comments about my high-pitched voice at that point. So yeah, no charges filed. Awesome.
Well done.
That December, Chase bought a gun and lied about his mental illness on the application form, and then began shooting. He was in his apartment. He began talking to the voices in his head and began shooting at them. So his apartment had loads of bullet wounds. The neighbors called the police. And like, if you're thinking, well, I'm sure that goes somewhere, it doesn't. Oh, sorry. You were... Oh, I'm sorry, man. They thought you were shooting someone else. As long as you're just shooting at the voices in your head, that's fine. Please continue. It's every patriot's right to have a gun. Can we not even just get mental health care checks for guns? They do it here. Could you not just do that? Like... He continued to kill puppies, by the way. Now he's got a gun that he can use. And then he tried, thankfully unsuccessfully, to steal a Saint Bernard. And still, up until this point, at which there have been many opportunities to get him help, still at this point, I think everyone's shrugging their shoulders and hoping the problem will go away on its own. No. So in December of 1977, Chase asks his mum, hey, am I coming over for Christmas? And she says, no. And then he kills a cat in front of her in an incredibly vicious manner. And it's like, sorry, your mum said she didn't want you over for Christmas and killed a cat in front of her. Okay, cool. Anyway, he's really angry about this. Killing the cat didn't do anything. So on December 29th, he shot his first known human victim. Ambrose Griffin, a 51-year-old father of two. He was unloading groceries from his car and Chase shot him in a drive-by. Griffin's wife somehow thought her husband was having a heart attack. It's unclear why he targeted Ambrose, and they think it was just a crime of opportunity. 2 weeks later, he tried to enter a woman's house, but thankfully her doors were locked, so he left. He told detectives that locked doors were a sign he was not welcome, but unlocked doors were an invitation to come inside. Another time, he was chased off by a young couple who returned home to find him stealing their stuff. But they didn't come home and find him until after he'd already urinated and defecated on their infant child's bed. Still, this is the light part of the episode. Yeah, he then broke into another unoccupied house and tried to set fire to it because he thought the residents were spying on him. And this is the end of the light part of the episode with just one murder, a lot of child abuse, a lot of animal abuse, and, the rest of it. January 23rd, 1978. Chase broke into a house and shot Teresa Wallin, who was 3 months pregnant at the time. He shot her 3 times before engaging in necrophilia with her corpse. He stabbed her multiple times using a knife that he found in her kitchen, removed her organs and one nipple, and drank her blood from a yogurt cup he found in her bin. He further defiled her body with dog feces from her yard. She was found by her husband upon his return from work, and police who were at the scene said that haunted them for years afterwards, which, it's haunted me to have to read that.
Yeah.
And I did cut out a lot of things so that it was less graphic.
Great.
Chase went home and watched TV and called his mother.
How did you do after the weekend?
And then January 27th, 4 days later, Chase entered the home of 38-year-old Evelyn Miroth, killing everyone inside by shooting them in the head. This was Miroth, her friend Dan Meredith, her 6-year-old son Jason, and her 22-month-old nephew David. He also mutilated Miroth's corpse before engaging in necrophilia and cannibalism. And this is the bit that really made me sick. He also drank the baby's blood and appeared to literally bathe in people's blood in the bath. Another child, 6-year-old Tracy Grangard, knocked on the door because she and Jason were going on a trip with her parents. Chase panicked and left with the baby's body in Meredith's car. Thank God that little girl didn't also get killed.
Yeah.
And then it gets pretty graphic with what he did with the baby's body. But basically, he took the baby's body back to his apartment and began to eat the baby. And I have left out a lot. Thankfully, Tracy Grangard, her family alerted a neighbor who called the police because obviously it's the 1970s, so you don't have don't have cell phones, you have to go knock on a neighbour's door and be like, hey, can you call the police? Something awful has happened next door. Dan Meredith was lying in a pool of blood near the door when police entered, and the detective described it as a house of carnage, saying that he found it difficult to look at the body of 6-year-old Jason because he also had a 6-year-old at the time. When police found Evelyn's body mutilated on her bed, they noticed that the baby was missing from the crib. They found that the murderer had left complete handprints and shoe imprints in Miroff's blood, and obviously connected it to the Wallin murder because, you know, everything about it. Police had initially been exploring the possibility that Wallin was murdered by one of her husband's ex-girlfriends. They actually got FBI profiler Robert Ressler to assist police in this investigation. He, along with Russ Vorpagel, created a profile of the killer, saying a white man in his 20s, suffering from mental illness, theorized that his mental illness began at age 15 and had only gotten worse. Something which, yeah, fucking did. And no one went, hey, let's step in at 15 rather than waiting for him to kill all these people. In 1997, Vorpagel said, you know darn well that your normal everyday person is not going to fill a tub with water and bathe in the blood. So here we see personality, here we see mental illness, we see mental deterioration. So anyway, luckily, during the crimes, Chase wore an orange ski parka that his father had recently bought him. And, you know, a disheveled, long-haired man in an orange ski parka at the scene of 2 crimes within days of each other, that's pretty noticeable. An old high school acquaintance of Chase's, Nancy Westfall, told police that a man in an orange ski parka had approached her while shopping. She didn't realise it was Chase at first because his appearance was so different, but she said he had blood stains on him and noticed a yellow crust around his mouth. We'll be right back after this short break.
Okay, so we're back, and Westfall said that basically Chase was being a bit weird with her, asking her if she'd been on the motorcycle when her ex-boyfriend died on it. And it's like, who the hell would ask that? And she's like, no, who the hell are you? And he's like, oh yeah, it's me, Rick. And she was like, yeah. She was so shocked by his appearance and so unsettled that she locked her car and drove off when he asked her for a ride. And you know what? That probably saved her life, because this apparently occurred shortly before Chase murdered Wallin, which is slightly weird, because you're thinking, wait, he had blood all over him then, before he'd killed anyone. Before he'd killed anyone, like, close enough to get blood on him.
Yeah.
Like. So, Chase was arrested. The police who searched his apartment found that the walls, floor, ceiling, refrigerator, and all of his eating and drinking utensils were soaked in blood. Several dog collars were also found, along with rotting organs that belonged to people and belonged to animals and some of his human victims. He'd been reading gun magazines, psychology magazines, a book titled Psychic People, and circled classified ads in the paper about dogs for sale. He'd written the word today on a calendar on both the occasions of the Wallin and the Miroff murders, but that was written on 44 more dates throughout 1978, which does make me concerned that he's killed 44 more times, but hopefully he didn't. By the way, this part of the thing I didn't get the chance to summarise, so I'm learning about this as you are, so you get my full, authentic reactions.
Yeah.
At first, Chase didn't let police into the apartment, and so they did that thing where they go, okay then, well, we'll go, and started making, like, stomping noises with their feet, and then he came outside, and then he tried to run when he saw the police, and they tackled him, and I just find the okay, we're gonna leave bit really funny. Sorry, dude. And we've got to take light moments where we can. One of the detectives on the case said that they didn't know whether the baby was alive or not, so that he contemplated shooting Chase. But he said, that's when I found out I'm not like him. It would have been a good shooting, a justified shooting. But the average person, cops included, aren't like these people. He's a cold-blooded killer and we aren't. Chase was uncooperative with the police, you'll be amazed to learn, claiming that he had only killed some dogs and he was being framed by the Italians. Doesn't explain why he would have been framed by the Italians. Never mind. He speculated that the murders were committed by a blonde man in an orange jacket and that someone had been coming in and out of his apartment. It would take until March, because remember this is in late January, early February. It would take until March for them to find the baby's corpse in a garbage bin. How? You're at his apartment. It cannot possibly take that long to look through all of the bins in that apartment building. Hi, if everyone can just come outside and just dump their trash on the ground here, we just want to check for a baby, you know? So a few days after his capture, he was interviewed by psychiatrists and only went into vague detail about his mental health history, which makes me think, wait, sorry, was this not on record from before? Could you not look at this? So they had to ask him what he was doing on the screen of his mind rather than what he was doing, because he experienced it like he was watching his thoughts on a television, which possibly explains the camera decisions in the film, you know, the camera decisions in the episode where it looks like a grainy film. Anyway, so he said he saw lights in the sky that might be UFOs and incorrectly claimed that he was Jewish, saying he'd been beaten up by gangs of Italians because he was Jewish, which, again, he was not. In 1979, he stood trial for 6 counts of murders. Due to his delusions about being a persecuted Jew, he asked for a lawyer from the Jewish Defense League, with this motion being denied. Because, of course, you're not Jewish, and we don't want to defend you, mate. His defense attorney was Faris Salame, the son of Lebanese migrant and local to the Sacramento area. While in custody and awaiting trial, Chase claimed the food he was served was poisoned and ordered his defense attorney to have the food tested. In order to avoid the death penalty, the defense tried to have him found guilty on second-degree murder, which would result in a life sentence, based on a well-documented history of mental illness that he did not get the right care for. In interviews with psychiatrists during the trial, Chase admitted his guilt, saying, "I didn't kill anybody, just a few people." He remembered very little from the murders, and then he said he was poisoned by iodine or mercury and trying to get free of poison to go live with his grandmother's relatives. He said his car had broken down, he had no money, and so he just walked into someone's house and killed them. And you couldn't just steal a car? Couldn't just steal a car and go off? No? Great. He said he needed blood, saying that he'd gone to several places to get some and was unable to. He believed his lack of blood was preventing him from living a normal life, and the blood from animals hadn't helped. He couldn't get up and act like a human being because of the weaknesses, and he went on to plead not guilty by reason of temporary insanity, and requested to be seen by a heart specialist about the stolen pulmonary artery. I am concerned about the use of the word temporary. None of this seems temporary. Chase said he was afraid that his victims would come back from the dead. I mean, maybe don't kill people if you don't want them to avenge themselves as ghosts. I'm sorry. I know that he has a mental illness and that at any point someone could have treated him before this. But it does make me really annoyed to read this. Oh my god. One day during the trial, Chase's mother confronted him and criticised their German shepherd for not protecting them the day the murder happened. Sorry, this by the way is about Wallen's murder. Like, I'm sorry, your son broke into a house to murder a woman, and when her husband is giving a victim impact statement, you have the nerve to say, yeah, well, what was your German shepherd doing? Shouldn't the dog have protected her? The absolute fucking nerve. He was found guilty of 6 counts of first-degree murder, rejected the argument that he was not guilty by reason of insanity, and sentenced to die in the gas chamber. The lead prosecutor said that while Chase was mentally disturbed, he still knew what he was doing was wrong. But he did think it would be a hard task to convince jurors that Chase was legally sane, which I also find to be an odd thing. But yeah, apparently he took rubber gloves with him, but at the same time, he never cleaned himself off. People were people were seeing him with blood on him all the time, and no one was like, sorry, could I just flag this? There's this guy, and he appears to be covered in blood every time I see him. No one, also, by the way, they weren't allowed pets in his apartment building, right? And one of his neighbours saw him with dogs all the time, and then just never saw the dogs again. And look, I know that, like, how was she to know? But also, at some point, why are you not asking a question? Why are you not, like, going to the building super and being like, hey, you know 3B, we're not allowed to have pets in here, but they appear to be bringing in, like, 1 dog a week, and I never see the dog again. I don't really hear any barking either. You know, I think it's just that no one ever seems to act. They're just kind of kicking it down the road. Like, oh, yeah, well, you don't have a heart condition, never mind. He's saying he thinks an artery has been stolen from him. There's clearly something wrong. So I am very angry about, like, no one taking any moves when they could have done. So, Chase's fellow inmates feared him and often tried to convince him to harm himself. He was described as behaving psychotically and was sent to a facility for the criminally insane in December 1979, based on psychiatrists who said he was psychotic, insane, incompetent, and chronically so. He was eventually sent back to San Quentin in 1980 once he was deemed to be stabilised. Chase wanted to be transferred to a prison on the East Coast so he could be closer to the government and safe from UFOs. Yeah, he's really freaking stable. Yeah, you've done a great job. He said that UFO intelligence began tracking him prior to the murder spree, and he was born as a result of UFO cloning experiments, and that his mother has been secretly poisoning him since he was a year old. He was also born with the Jewish Star of David symbol on his forehead as a result of the UFO cloning experiment. Sorry, what was that you said? Determined to be stabilised? Do I have a different definition of the phrase mentally stable than psychiatrists? I think I might do. During 1979, Chase considered appealing the death sentence because he thought his life was under threat when the murders happened, which could have made his actions justifiable under California law. I think that's in case someone comes into your house and you shoot them. I don't think it's you going into people's houses because the aliens told you to. Now, I know you want to hear about the alien stealing his blood that Reed mentioned. Okay? So, he told one of the one of the FBI agents, Robert Ressler, Chase said, well, basically, I'm the victim of soap dish poisoning. And if you're thinking, wow, I'd love to know what soap dish poisoning is, buckle in. Chase explains that everyone has a soap dish. If they lift up the soap and the part underneath is dry, they're fine. But if it's gooey, this means they have soap dish poisoning. Do you want to run and check the soap on your bathroom sink, or? Okay, cool. So anyway, it turns out I am also the victim of soap dish poisoning. So if I die, that's how it happens. It turns his blood to powder. And the reason he killed was to replenish his blood. Soap dish poisoning was perpetrated by Nazi UFOs, and he asked Ressler for access to a radar gun to apprehend the Nazi UFOs so that the Nazis could stand trial for the murders. Sorry, can we just scroll up? I said that those psychiatrists determined him to be stable, right? Yeah, and they determined he didn't need to be in a psychiatric facility? Alright, okay. We have a different definition of stable. He then again claims that he's Jewish, that there was a Star of David symbol on his forehead, and he handed Ressler a large amount of macaroni and cheese that he'd been hoarding in his trouser pockets, because the prison officials were in league with the Nazis and attempting to kill him with poisoned food. He wanted to have the food tested by the FBI. And now, if you're thinking, wait, wouldn't that have gone mouldy in your pockets? Yes, that's the only thing I'm thinking, but it's not mentioned here. Ressler said, yeah, I'll do that. And then he said, "Oh, I can't see the Star of David symbol on your forehead because I don't have my glasses." So wrestler does say here, you stay out of commenting on the fantasy and urge them to continue. So I could have said there's no such thing of soap dish poisoning, but that wouldn't have helped. So anyway, Chase was temporarily sent to the Vacaville facility for the criminal insane shortly afterwards. Yeah. Wrestler opposed the initial decision to send Chase to San Quentin in May 1979, believing he should be permanently institutionalized instead. December 1980, Chase is found dead in his prison cell at San Quentin. So he was again returned from the facility. There was an overdose of Synquan, which is a drug used to treat depression and hallucinations. He took 36 times the normal dose because he'd been secretly hiding the pills in his cell. You know, pretending to take them and then just storing them up. I'm not going to tell you the rest of the information about his dead body, but he had left 4 sheets of paper covered in handwriting. 2 of them contained drawn squares filled with an unknown code, and 2 were a message that said he might drink his pills, which could cause his heart to stop beating. Earlier that morning, an officer checked on him and just kind of thought he was fine. Wrestler believed that Chase's death was accidental rather than a suicide, but of course, we'll never know. So anyway, that's the end, thankfully. I've got nothing more to tell you about this horrific case, which has unsettled me.
Proud of you. Thank you for leaving out most of the gory stuff.
Yeah.
Now we're on to the section that we call What Would Penelope Garcia Do? So in this section we link people with resources that can help them, or
Yeah, we link people with charities that could help them, a cause that might need supporting, or petitions that they might be able to sign that would help with the issues raised in this episode. Sarah, do you want to tell them what we've chosen?
Yeah, so this week we're signposting support for those that have witnessed violent crimes due to the horrors that poor little Wally must have experienced in this episode. In the UK, we have Victim Support, which is an independent charity dedicated to supporting people affected by crimes and traumatic incidents in both England and Wales, regardless of whether they've been reported to police or when it happened. They have a support line number that you can call, which is 0808 1689 111. There's also a live chat available on the website, which is victimsupport.org.uk. The website also offers advice and info from what to expect if you need to attend court to give evidence, so keeping yourself safe and dealing with the media in the event that the trial becomes like in newspapers. There's also the witness service. This is if you're required to go to court to give evidence, you're entitled to free and confidential help before, during, and after a trial. This service will help you understand your rights as a witness and advise you through the whole process. They can also arrange specialist support for the type of crime that you've witnessed, as well as they'll arrange counsel for you. They can be contacted by phone on 332 1000. You can email them at wsreferralhub@citizenadvice.org.uk, or you can fill out a referral form on the website, which is citizenadvice.org.uk.
For the US, we have obviously the Witness Protection Program, which, you know, is run by the US Marshals, and that is about protecting witnesses that are testifying against very violent criminals, mainly organised crime, drug dealers, the mob. So we do have that, but obviously that is not going to be for everybody, and if you're testifying in such a serious case, they will give you personalised support when you are testifying. But we have on the Bureau of Prisons.gov, they have a section which is resources for victims and witnesses, which includes information about your rights, notifications, and how to make complaints or get compensation. So these rights include the right to be reasonably protected from the accused, and the right to reasonable, accurate, and timely notice of any public court proceeding. So it's got that. It's also got the victim and witness notification system, which is designed to provide all this information. It also has a section about program safety, and that says that while the program itself does not ensure the safety of victims or witnesses, anyone contacted inappropriately by an inmate needs to contact the institution where the inmate is incarcerated. So it gives you information on how to do that, and also how to get victim compensation. Because it can be very traumatic to see any kind of crime, I wanted to give you the details of the National Alliance on Mental Illness. That's NAMI. Their helpline is 1-800-950-6264. Or you can text NAMI to 741-741 to have someone to talk to.
That's all for this week, but come back next week when we talk about Criminal Minds Season 1, Episode 12. What fresh.
While you're waiting for the next episode, why not follow us on social media? We're on Instagram at Looking for a Man in His 30s Pod, and Tumblr at lookingforamanhis30spod. Or you can always email us at lookingforamanhis30s@gmail.com. All 3 times 30s is spelled out. Don't put 30, or you might get one of those bots that Instagram clearly thinks we are.
And you can also rate and review us on whichever platform you're using to listen to our podcasts. It really helps more than.
Until next time.